If you've ever missed the perfect shot because you've taken just too long setting up your tripod, then you may be wondering if there is a better option out there. And with so many different options for stabilizing your camera, you may have thought, are tripods really worth it? So in this video, I want to go over each of the different ways that you can stabilize your camera, showing you the pros and cons of each different system, which hopefully will allow you to get the best equipment in each situation. Let's start by talking about tripods. Now, the big benefit of a tripod is they are unbeatable when it comes to stability. This means in situations where camera shake might occur, such as when you're shooting in low light situations, or any time when you have to have a slower shutter speed, a tripod may be an absolutely fantastic option. But as we spoke about earlier, they do take a little bit longer to set up. Now, the other drawback is in order to get the stability, they do have to be a lot heavier. This means if you're walking long distances, it may be that you want to consider one of the other options. They're also incredibly durable, which means that buying one from the used market becomes a bit of a no-brainer. This one right here I picked up for 100 quid from eBay, and the one that I'm shooting on right now is the Manfrotto 055, which I also picked up on eBay for about 100 quid. And this I think is a good place to start when you're thinking about how much to invest in a tripod. Any cheaper than that and you'd be looking at one like this. This is the first tripod I ever got from Amazon. I think it cost about 30 quid at the time. And it's very light, very cheap and plasticky. And frankly, I wouldn't trust my gear on top of this. For a lighter camera, perhaps with like a 50mm lens, it's absolutely fine. But we're dealing with much larger, heavier wildlife equipment here. So you want something a lot more sturdy than this. The other thing I'd recommend when you're looking at a tripod is to try and buy one without one of these center columns. This center column is used for taking top-down shots, for example in macro photography, or if you spend a lot of your time vlogging from the floor, then maybe it might still be a great option to get. The issue with these center columns is it means that you can't get your tripod as easily down to ground level. You could theoretically pull the center column out, spin it upside down, pop it back in, and then use your camera upside down. But frankly, this is a lot of work compared to if you didn't have a center column, you would just spray all the legs out and have a much lower ground pod. If you are looking to buy a tripod, then there are lots of different attachments that you can have on the top of it. This one up here is one that I'd really recommend. This is a fluid head. Usually this would be used for video, but I find that it's absolutely fantastic when it comes down to wildlife photography. It provides a little bit of resistance, but I've never had an issue trying to keep up with my subjects. The little bit of resistance actually helps to dampen any shakes, so you can be a lot more accurate with your movements, which is really great. This would be a different option that you could use. This is a gimbal head. Essentially what this is you would plonk your camera onto here, you'd rotate your camera, allowing you to shoot up and down. This would spin around. It kind of acts a bit like a sort of turret head. Really good, really fast and accurate. But the issue is when you are trying to do video, this just isn't stable. There's not enough really resistance to sort of track a subject in the same way that you would do on a video head, like the fluid head that I have here. So for me, I find that each of these are equally good when it comes down to photography, but you're getting the added benefit that you can use this a lot more for videography. So I would highly recommend buying a fluid head rather than a gimbal head. If you feel different, let me know down in the comments down below. So overall, I'd really recommend having a tripod for any situation where you're going to be there for a long period of time, maybe not hiking with it, it depends how much you hate your back, or any low light situation, or any situation where you need a long shutter speed. Now there are other different types of tripods that you can have. For example, this one right here, this is a ground pod. Essentially what this is a tripod, but it's much further away, more expensive, and I use it far less. The reason I use this far less for photography is I find that the job that this is doing can be done equally well by other equipment that I'm going to show you later. It is a lovely piece of kit, really well made, but frankly I wouldn't recommend this for photography. This I picked up for a couple of 100 quid. It's not too heavy, it's really beautiful for video work, but for most people I wouldn't recommend this. Okay, so next up we have monopods. Now as the name suggests, it's basically like a tripod, only with one leg. And as such, it's not quite as stable as a tripod. However, the big benefit to this is it's far, far lighter. This means if you're traveling long distances, then this might be the better option than carrying a tripod with you. In terms of cost, these generally are cheaper than a tripod, although there are some more expensive models coming to the market, such as with one-hand releases, which will allow them to open up even faster, which is really cool, but you will be paying about £200 to £300 for the pleasure to do so. This one, I find that I can still open with one hand. It just means I have to close them individually, which is a little bit slower, but it's frankly far quicker than using the tripod. It is quite possible to get quite low down using these monopods as well, if you want to shoot more at eye level. However, if you're shooting at eye level more frequently, I probably wouldn't be using a monopod at all. Overall, I recommend this to anyone who enjoys taking photos of birds during their hiking sessions. And also, this isn't going to be as good as a tripod if you enjoy doing things like taking pictures of waterfalls. So if that's really what you enjoy, then a tripod is going to be a better option for you than a monopod. Now, the issue with both of these pieces of larger equipment is that when you're shooting from a hide, generally you're not going to have room to shoot with a tripod or with a monopod. A better option is this. Beanbag time. This right here is an absolutely fantastic option if you are shooting from a hide. What you would do is you would take this beanbag and you'd put it over the ledge and you'd rest your camera on top of this. This gives you a great support when you are taking pictures using slower shutter speeds. In terms of the weight, this is incredibly light. You can fill it with anything. I know that lots of people will fill them up with little styrofoam balls, and in which case there is absolutely no weight to it at all. However, what I've done here is I've filled this up with birdseed. This means that if I'm shooting in my garden and I notice that the bird feed is getting low, I can top this up with the birdseed. But if I wanted to take this out on a hike with me, then again, this weighs absolutely nothing. This beanbag right here cost about £40, making it one of the most expensive beanbags you're ever going to buy, but really durable, lasts a really long time, and I've got a lot of use out of it, so I'd recommend it for the money. I've now spilled birdseed all over the floor as well. What do I do for you guys, eh? But what if you don't want to spend £40 on a beanbag? Well, there is one final option that you can do, and that is using this, the camera itself. A lot of cameras now have absolutely fantastic in-body stabilization, and a lot of lenses do as well. And I find that in-camera stabilization is incredibly useful for helping me to shoot at lower shutter speeds. But if you don't have in-camera stabilization, then there are other things that you can do to help stabilize yourself. Always have a look at the environment that's around you and look at different things that you can balance on or rest yourself against. This is going to help to stabilize yourself really well. But if there's nothing around you that you can stabilize yourself on, then there is always yourself. What I like to do when I'm shooting down eye level is to tuck my elbow against my knee. This helps to create fantastic contact points and effectively helps to stabilize myself, much like the tripod did earlier. Or if I'm in a standing position, then I want to make sure that we're tucking our elbows in nice and tight to the body. This again is going to help to minimize the amount of shake, but stability is just one element to shooting in these tricky lighting conditions. If you want to learn more about shooting in low light conditions, then click on this video right here and I'll catch you in the next one.